Welcome to episode 5 of Triumphant Tales, the online video show for survivor entrepreneurs. That is, entrepreneurs and wannabe entrepreneurs who are living in or recovering from a toxic, abusive relationship. My name is Patrysha with a Y, and I'll be your host this evening. In this episode, I will be talking about fear and how it can impact our business and how we show up in the world. It is a constant battle to fight for confidence. And that brings us to our guest for this evening, Barb Iuliano, who is a confidence coach with Starland Coaching, and she's going to share her story of triumph and recovery and the work that she does with survivor entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs who are looking for a boost in confidence. For those of you that have followed along since the beginning, you may have noticed a slight gap in the schedule between episode 4 and this episode. And I really struggled with whether I was going to make mention of it or simply move on and act like it never happened. And I decided to talk about it, to talk about why there is a gap between episode 4 and 5, and I do hope that gap never happens again. But what happened was essentially a bout of fear, and it sent me into a lack of confidence and a real doubting of myself, my abilities, and the whole ball of wax. Something that I thought that I had grown out of and grown past came and bit me in the butt again, and I had to work through it in order to bring Triumphant Tales to life again. I'm not sure how close it came to not being realized, but I know that I couldn't let the fear hold me back, and so that's what I went through, and that is why there was the gap. What I've done is put together a few links that one of my friends sent me when I said I went to my mentor, my accountability partner, and I explained that I was having these feelings and feeling like an imposter. And imposter syndrome is very common within the work at home community, within the entrepreneurial community. And I'm not sure whether it is amplified by being a survivor, but I know that when it did hit, it was pretty intense, and I had to go back to my tools and techniques to help fight it and to bring myself to take the next step and to continue to move forward, because the fear was for a moment, 2 weeks, debilitating. But it's done, it's over with, and I did want to mention that it happened before we go on and to the next interview with Barb Iuliano. It was an amazing interview, and you'll note that my hair was a little wild and different when I did do the interview. Gone through a little bit of a style change since the last episode and since I did record the episode with Barb. I hope that you will get a boost of inspiration from the message that she shares, and that you will find her as engaging and lovely as I did. And today we are here with Barb Iuliano, who is a confidence coach with Starland Coaching. And Barbara, just to start off, if you could introduce your story and how you became a confidence coach.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me here, Patricia. First of all, I became a confidence coach because obviously I had a lot of confidence issues myself. Growing up, I had absolutely no self-esteem, I had no self-love, and my confidence was constantly dragging through the floor. And the reason why I love Triumphant Tales so much is because that itself made me embark in a very toxic relationship. So it was very hard. It was a very hard thing to go through, and I came out of it alive, and I give it all to confidence, right? Um, I pretty much went 3 years complaining about my relationship to my friends, being told that I should leave, but believing that the alternative was harder than my current reality, right? So after focusing on myself and on the things that I didn't believe were possible for me and working on my own confidence, I was able to do that and my life completely transformed. I quit my job, I changed careers. I eventually, after a while, started my own business, and that's what I do now. I help other women believe in themselves and in the power of their dreams, and I support them through difficult times and through big projects that they don't believe themselves to be capable of doing.
So you help provide the confidence for people who are struggling with confidence themselves.
I don't provide it because I do believe that that's all within yourself, but I do help you find it all inside of you because I do believe that we all have, even if we're not raised as confident human beings, like I was not, my family is not like that at all. We still have the ability to learn it and master it and just kind of dig that treasure out of us, right?
And how have you found the family relationships now that you have found that confidence? Do you find them easier or harder now that you've come through that journey of healing?
You said family
Yeah, those
relationships?
family relationships, because you said that it goes back to childhood. So there'd obviously be some family relationships in there. Or were those severed long ago?
Well, actually, what I found is that I stopped victimizing myself. I stopped blaming my family um, for my own problems, right? I actually grew up having a lot of problems with my mom, and finding this confidence allowed me to just respect her where she is, right? Something that I couldn't do before because I felt so victimized in my own life, right?
Awesome. So, when you began the process, what would you say was the most influential factor in helping you to find that confidence? How did you know that you needed it, and how did you find it back then?
It was all very intuitive, actually. It's funny because right before I left, I got a random tattoo and it says believe in yourself. And I never thought how influential that tattoo would have been in my life, right? It started slowly. It was a slow process for me because I didn't have any support. But I think my tipping point was when I told myself, I want to be healthy. You know, my whole life I was overweight and I had a lot of um, body issues. So I told myself I want to be healthy and I took baby steps day by day and I proved myself after a while that what I thought my whole life to be impossible was possible. And that was my tipping point. That's when I'm like, oh wow, I can do things I don't believe that I can.
That's awesome. And so, in your coaching, what do you find is the most common issue that the women who come to you are facing?
Well, a lot of them do bring it back to family and their issues with their family and how they were raised and things like that. But at the end of the day, it's all within their own minds, right? So it's their own thoughts, it's their own self sabotage. Even though what we believe most of the time doesn't even come from us, it usually comes from other people who's told you, for example, people who have called me fat or ugly or incapable of doing something, or maybe an experience where other people made fun of me. That's not what I originally thought and believed of myself, but those thoughts get implanted into my pattern and I believe them to be true. So I think self-sabotaging through your own self beliefs is one of the main things that I deal with, and dissecting that and understanding that they're not real, it's it honestly works magic.
Awesome. And so, what would you advise for the viewers out there who are still dealing with or looking at escaping from an abusive relationship or a toxic relationship? What would their first baby steps be? Can you give some action steps on what they can do to change that reality from where they are?
Absolutely. I actually thought about this. I'm like, what can I tell them? Because everyone's going through a different stage, right? And you may be going through something similar than myself, but you may have kids, or you may already pass that stage, but you may not have the same support that I had, you know? So it's kind of hard to tell you one thing to do in regards to your domestic abuse situation, but I can tell you one thing is to start working on yourself, right? Start working on the things that you never thought were possible. And even if it's very basic things, even if it's, you know what, I've always wanted to make creme brulee, but I find that to be completely impossible. Try. Go online, look up the recipe, get the supplies, even if they're used. Just prove yourself that you can do something, because as you start proving yourself that you can do something, you start basing your decisions more on how you feel than what you fear, right? Because if we're constantly fearing, what happened to me when I was in a very toxic relationship is that I feared the alternative more than my reality, like I said before. So if we're constantly fearing that we're not going to be able to get through it, that we're not going to have the ability and the support to get through that stage of our life, we're always going to stay there, right? But if we start believing in ourselves, even if it's little by little, even if it's from making creme brulee to starting your own business, right? Eventually, you'll decide based upon what you feel is best for you and for your emotions and for your spiritual growth and for your mental growth and for your human experience.
Awesome advice. And so, is there anything else that I've missed in the questions that you know a person could look for that I've missed from what you provide for your clients that I haven't asked already?
Um, do you mean like a tool or advice or something that I go through
Yeah,
with?
yeah, pretty much. I mean, I've gone through the questions that I have, and I'm going, well, you've answered them so clearly. Is there anything that I'm missing about what you do with your confidence coaching? And also to make sure that we mention where people can contact you so that if they're interested in taking it to the next level with you, that they can get in touch.
Absolutely. Well, they can contact me on my website. It's starlandcoaching.com, and that's star and then land. You can find my email there and just email me. Connect with me through Facebook. It's the same thing, Starland Coaching. If you guys need any help, I'm always available to get on a free discovery call, or even just email back and forth for a little bit to help you out with anything you need. But if I can give you one more thing, is don't be afraid to get help. You know, and I understand that a lot of people are not in the position to get a coach, even though some coaches are affordable. Like myself, my prices are not high at all. Don't be afraid to get help from a friend that you trust, from a family member that you trust, and someone that you know that's going to support you and just not judge you, right? Because a lot of times we start getting that motivation to leave or change or do something that we never thought possible, but we self-sabotage ourselves. So having someone to just talk it through, let it out, dissect your thoughts, and just make you realize that whatever you're thinking that's holding you back, it's not real. It really works wonders in your life. So obviously I would always recommend get a coach, but if you cannot, anyone that will support you in a positive way and empower you, don't be afraid. Reach out to people because people do want to help each other. It's part of our human nature, so they'll be here for you. Trust me.
Absolutely. And that is great advice because so many people are afraid of reaching out and afraid of the judgment that comes. And as you've experienced, most people are more than willing to help when you say, I need help. And so, if you are out there in this situation, there's me, there's Barbara, and there's numerous other resources within your community and online that you can turn to. And speaking of resources, I'm a big reader. Are there any books that have been particularly influential for you?
Yes. There's one book that's called How to Wake Up. It's based on Buddhist beliefs. Pardon my accent.
No worries.
um, but that book changed my life. Um, it pretty much allows you to understand that there will be suffering in life, and that's okay. You know, as long as you continue to grow and be grateful for whatever you have at whatever moment of your life that you're in, right? That book is really good. I also loved the 12 archetypes, and that's like a psychology concept where it shows you that through human experience we go through different stages. Sometimes we're an orphan, sometimes we're a warrior, sometimes we're a princess, and
I like that one, princess.
so these two books really, they relate to me a lot with our experience of abusive relationships and toxic relationships, you know, because you can either stay stuck in them and never grow, or you can understand that it's a part of your human growth and keep moving, right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Barbara, for joining me. And I hope that you'll join us again, and we'll continue the relationship, because I just love what you do with your confidence coaching. And I think it is something that is very much needed out there in the sphere, because, yeah, it's just the time has come for women to heal and to turn to each other for help in the journey, because there is help there, and other people that have gone be there before. I was just talking with another friend of mine yesterday, and we were talking about how this really is the first generation that has the ability and the resources to be free, whereas our grandmothers and forefathers did not have this freedom within the lifestyles, and with the new technology that has come available, and the reaching out and the understanding that we shouldn't be hurting each other in families, that this really is the first generation that has that opportunity, and I hope that all of them will take it.
Absolutely, I completely agree. And it honestly, it's so empowering to meet people like yourself and other people online that are making such a big difference in this world. So thank you so much for having me on today, and it will be my pleasure to be back on Triumphant Tales.
Awesome. Thanks so much. I'm going to hit.
So, your takeaways for episode 5 are: try something new, take baby steps, and don't be afraid to reach out for help, whether you go to a professional like a therapist or a coach, or whether you seek out friends and support groups. There is help out there, and you deserve the best life. Until next week, this is Patricia with a Y for Triumphant Tales.